it couldn't work any other way. If there wasn't a great relationship there, that wouldn't work well. But that's working for us greatly. Experienced project managers, and I'll talk about this a little bit later on how we did our project management approach and what we do with that. But having knowledgeable project managers who can go out to the customers and talk to them about what they need, and plus have the technical skills to be able to do the virtualization and to have the SAN, the NetApp engineers and that sort of thing has been really great. And then the team has to be very cohesive. So with that, communicating the vision. Once we decided we were going to consolidate, we have the funding set aside, we've built our team, telling our customers what we're doing was also, and still is, a vital part of our process. And so what we've done is we put together a briefing, and I'm just kind of giving you some of the slides that we show them. We tell them, about our East facility, when it will be open, and what it will look like. It will be a Tier 3 center, data center. It will be on the Eastern power grid. We'll have the West, which will be government-owned. It will be on the Western power grid, and it will be a pod design. We're going to build the first pod. It's going to be a 2-pod data center. We're going to build the first pod out, and as Gardner recommends, that you don't build out your infrastructure for the second pod until you're ready for that technology. So we think a couple years down the road, we'll be building out the second pod. But both will be lights-out facilities. I have the East stood up right now, and we have 4 shifts that work, but we only have a very minimal number of people. We have 3 to 4 people per shift, and they're really the guys who will go and reboot a server if you need to. We do monitoring centrally, but we can do monitoring at each of the centers as well. So it's a very, very efficient process that we've built out here. Okay. All right, also, one of the things that our customers came back and said, you're building out production data centers, an East and West Coast redundant data center, but I can't give up any space because I still have my development networks. So we also had our facilities people come to us and go, they're saying I can't have that space because, they still need it. So what we decided to do is we have a very large data center that is one of our old legacy data centers. And it was still going to be needed for, it actually houses like our IT help desk and some other things. It's a very large building out in Beltsville. And so we decided, well, it's great for a development land. Let's consolidate all the department's development lands in that old legacy facility. It doesn't need to be Tier 3. And we do have to make some infrastructure modifications to it, but it will still work and provide the capability that we need for development lands. So what we're doing is, that's scheduled for FY12, I've already have a team of engineers that we have set to doing the whole planning out of that development land and how we're going to network to get there. So that's underway, but we're planning to implement some of the first systems in the FY12 timeframe. Okay, then also key in this is you have to make sure that your customers know you have the right connectivity when you're putting data centers on the West Coast, not on the West Coast, but in the Western power grid. We're taking the Eastern data center is away from Washington. It's about 70 miles out, so that's away from us. And everybody's going, how do I know I'm going to get the right performance? So we had to show them all the infrastructure that we're putting in from the network perspective. And this shows the circle for the East with our 2 legacy data centers, and then the West will go in there as well. Now, one of the other things, I don't own the network guys, and so what we did was we funded 3 full-time people to go work on the network side to support our project, so that we made sure that we got the right attention that we needed to do the job. So. Okay, as far as our service model is concerned, what we're doing is we do offer managed, kind of co-managed, but we're really trying to get everybody in the data center, so we're trying to keep it as simple as we can, and we're primarily focused on co-location. But with co-location, we do the monitoring and we do the backups, and we help them migrate to the data center. But as I said, we do manage if we have to, but we're trying to keep that to a minimum so that it doesn't distract us from our data center consolidation. We feel that later on down the road, we'll take that on as a next phase in our project. And so we are, So we are doing infrastructure as a service. If you look at GSA's, cloud computing, infrastructure as a service, so that's where we're focused on at the moment. but we'll expand later. Okay, I threw this slide in here. You know, virtualization is key, don't get me wrong, and I have another slide in here to talk about that a little bit more, but I threw this one in here. I mean, we get so many questions. I don't know if you all are getting all of the data calls on how green are you and what are you doing, and so we just have one of these slides in here that we threw in. But as far as virtualization, if you'll go to the next slide. This is what I call is what's in it for me slide to my customers. And that is that we want, of course, to push virtualization. And we look at what we tell our customers is that we will help you assess whether a system can be virtualized or not, because everybody thinks theirs can't be virtualized, and mainly because of the evils. You know, I'm going to suffer in performance and space and all that sort of thing. And then also you have to look at their life cycle times. If they've just bought new lifecycle equipment, they're not going to want to virtualize. But anyway, so you have to take all those things into consideration. But what we said is, okay, we'll guarantee that if we tell you your application is appropriate for virtualization and we're wrong, then we'll buy your physical machines. Right now we buy virtual infrastructure. If you virtualize, you come on our platform. If you want physical machines, you have to bring your own physical machines to the data center. So, and then a lot of people are doing, if they stay with physical machines, they're doing it on a life cycle basis as well. Nobody's moving old equipment around, so, and that's a good thing. So, but the benefits of the virtualization, like I said, is that it is centrally funded. It reduces the acquisition time because we've already bought that infrastructure, so we can just migrate them over and bring them in. It gives you high availability. I mean, I don't know that I have to sell virtualization to this group, but that's really what we're trying to do, is to offer them this carrot that if we're wrong, we'll move them and we'll buy them physical machines. So, okay, one more. So key stakeholder buy-in. And this is the only slide I have on key stakeholder buy-in, but my point here to make to you is that if you look across this slide, there are so many stakeholders that don't forget who your stakeholders are, and that you have to coordinate with them. And all the way from the vendor, if you've leased the facility like we have in one data center, to the facilities managers, if you have other data centers that the government owns, your security. We have a lot of other IT stakeholders within the State Department. I do the data centers and I have some enterprise applications, but you know, people who own the networks and the messaging and all that stuff, they're still my peers, but there's a lot of coordination that needs to go along with them. But don't leave any of them out, because they get really, they don't play very well in the sandbox if they feel like they've been left out. So you need to do that. And then as far as your customers are concerned, they're data center owners right now. So you know, you have to coordinate and try to figure out how you're going to close those rooms down and how you're going to have them demolished and repurposed as office space. We deal a lot with people who just don't want to give up that space. But now, you know, we started consolidation and now the OMB mandate came down. So it helped with most of our customers, but we still have those few that think this doesn't apply to me still. And some of them can be very powerful and decide they don't want to do it. So we're dealing with all that. I don't know if you all have seen the numbers that came out in the OMB data center consolidation. I think, what was it, like 2,000 and some odd data centers across government. I mean, I personally feel that that's a really low number. I think that number was not good, but we'll see. We'll see what happens when we get down into it. Okay. Project management. Project management, I mean, I know we're all dealing with project management and how important that is to a job, but one thing that we did do, and I've got one slide that will talk about that, and that is that we developed 3 different kinds of plans. We developed our overall data center transition plan, which